I started as an agent working for a broker, and then I eventually got my broker's license, and then I bought some.
The similarity is kind of identifying a trend before it's about to happen. It's like the idea that, hey, this could be big, whether it's in
I don't want to miss out on anything. And I think the same has gone for
the real estate markets have sort of peaked out, where it became very difficult to do a transaction. Interest rates were really high, and then home valuations had skyrocketed. One topic that's been,
I wouldn't want to be working in real estate anywhere else, at least in the US, maybe somewhere else in another country. But
so regardless of where that property is in terms of cost, you're applying the same. Welcome to another episode of the Furniture Economy podcast, where we talk about how people are living in spaces, direct with executives at different firms to learn about trends that might be shaping the future of the furniture industry. Today, we are joined by Marianne McMahon. She is an associate broker at Christie's, has her own mortgage firm, and is also a real estate investor. Ton of experience understanding how people live in homes, what attracts them to different spaces, and we're very fortunate to have her on the pod with us today. Marianne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So today we're talking about how the spaces we live in, how they're marketed, and how they're furnished connect to design sustainability and circular approaches to interiors. But before we get there, I wanted to explore your background and your history a little bit. So you've had a non-traditional path compared to most people working in real estate, because you started in software and global account management at Dell.
Yes.
How do you think your early tech and business expertise shape your perspective in the real estate market?
I think particularly being in Austin, and I've been in the real estate industry in Austin for over 20 years, I feel there's a parallel. I joined Dell when they were just starting out with, they were still considered mail order. And I joined the sales team selling into large corporate accounts, and I was in Florida. And that growth and the trend toward what was happening and getting our large corporate accounts established, I often think of it as a parallel to my start in the real estate industry in Austin, where it was, Austin was young, but you could kind of see the writing on the wall of the growth that was going to happen in Austin. And it's been a lot of the same. If I compared I was with Dell for a decade and have been in real estate now for over a decade, but a lot of similarities on, starting out with something smaller and growing with it and growing myself and my business. And when I left Dell, I had managed one of their largest global accounts called Nortel. They were out of Canada. So that was a great experience. And then I also worked in the server area when they were just getting into the server market. And I do compare that a lot to kind of my time in the real estate industry as well, where I started as an agent working for a broker, and then I eventually got my broker's license, and then I bought some Remax franchises and had my own brokerages. And now have kind of evolved to another area where I've joined Christie's International Real Estate as a broker associate, but really mainly to keep up with the growth in Austin. I wanted to work with developers, and I'm sitting in great example of that in a high rise in Austin. I felt Christie's was, when they came to Austin, that was a great opportunity. So a lot of similarities from start to finish. I'm not finished yet with the real estate business, but I do see a lot of parallels to my path in both areas.
Interesting. So in both careers, the similarity is kind of identifying a trend before it's about to happen. It's like the idea that, hey, this could be big, whether it's in computing or in real estate. You saw something there and you wanted to get in on the action kind of early.
Yes, I definitely am one that has FOMO. I don't want to miss out on anything. And I think the same has gone for investment properties in real estate too, where I've taken kind of a leap of faith on buying into early to an investment, building a condominium, home, duplex, whatever it might be. And just sometimes it's risky and, a little bit scary, but I feel like I have a good instinct on what, just like the careers that I've had, the same with investing too. I feel that as well about my experience in investing in real estate.
So you definitely have an eye for spotting trends as they're happening. I'm curious if there's anything that's kind of floating to the top of your thought process in the recent years, 2026. Of course, there's this big boom in Austin. What's interesting to you in terms of trends?
I think the Austin grew so quickly 2 years ago, and we kind of leveled out. But I say this all the time and hear other people say this, I wouldn't want to be working in real estate anywhere else, at least in the US, maybe somewhere else in another country. But I think Austin is still a very young, if I look at Austin compared to New York, And I'm talking also the downtown living. I see more and more people coming urban to Austin, and there's still so much happening with the evolution of what's happening in just like where I'm at in the Rainy Street District or in the downtown area. There's going to be a lot happening in Austin. And I think even, developers are realizing that, and large hotel chains are realizing that we're about to get a one hotel here. Also, I see trends here for people that have a need to, maybe somebody that travels a lot and they want a place here, but they're not necessarily going to occupy that place all the time. So they may buy something, but buy something where they can either do like a fractional ownership, or they buy it and when they're not using it, they can lease it out or do a short-term rental. I'm seeing a lot more people wanting furnished spaces too, which is interesting. Even people that are renting, if they rent like this, like a high-rise penthouse, for example, they want it furnished. I think it's people want an easier lifestyle. They want to walk into something and it's already there and have somebody curate all that for them.
Absolutely. And there's, of course, this trend towards mobility. I mean, at the Ivy Flip company, we're mostly nomadic. So Soham's out in New Zealand right now. I'm in Mexico. And I definitely, if I'm going to be in a location for 3 months, I do not want to have to furnish the thing. And you see kind of a parallel in Austin. People are kind of floating through 3-6 months at a time, and they don't want to be bound to that property, but they want a comfortable living environment.
Concur with what you just said. I run into a lot, especially I work in different areas in Austin, but even I'm working on a newer project here with the Four Seasons, which is on Lake Austin, and it's about 200 residences. And even there, people that are going to buy into that, a lot of them are, maybe they're empty nesters and they want to travel more, or business people that want an investment and they'd see a good investment. Something new like that in Austin is a great investment, but they don't want to stay here all the time. So just figuring out a way to have something, a piece of ownership, and a lot of people want a piece of action in Austin, piece of the action in Austin as well. So it's kind of like crowdsourcing, if you will, but in real estate. So I think real estate will change a lot. I think the way that we do real estate, I feel like in 5-10 years, it's going to be completely different. So it's exciting. I do feel like tech and real estate are coming more and more together too, as well.
So how do you think it'll be different in like 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you think is the current reality and what looks different?
Globally, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more blurred on people from another country. They want to invest in the United States. There's going to be vehicles that allow people to do that where they don't necessarily have to travel here, or maybe they want to have a partial investment in something. And, there are companies today that do luxury partial investments where, they do 4 or 5 ownership deals, but it's mainly on luxury properties. I think that will change, where there'll be more tools for people all over the country to be able to get in on different real estate. Let's say I want to invest in Dubai, and there's going to be companies that allow me to do that through technology, where I may not even have to go visit there, but I could join somebody, a couple people from the US and maybe somebody from India, and we all invest in a property in a particular area of the world.
So greater access to investment opportunities, even domestically, but internationally as well.
Yes, I think so.
And you're a real estate investor yourself. So when you look at a home as an investor, how are you evaluating the space and deciding if it's something that you want to put dollars into?
I tend to look for something that's unique, that will set my property apart. And, I look for, of course, the market analysis and how competitive it is and what the growth is, and also, what I could buy it for. But I've been really successful getting properties that are just a little bit unique, where they might have something a little different than any other thing in the building. Or, as I mentioned, like the Four Seasons, something that is new to Austin, has a great brand, has a lot of things going for it that would be a good investment in 5 years from now. And I've done pretty well so far with holding to that. When I initially started investing in real estate 20 years ago when I got my license, and I bought 4 or 5 duplexes. And then I took those and kind of turned them over into the next level of property. Also, I think now is a great time to invest in Austin. Our prices are low because we went up so quickly, so prices came down. But I do feel that there's going to be, by the end of 26, things are going to to start to change. There's going to be less inventory. The rates will be more aggressive. And I think we'll see it'll be a different market where now it is a buyer's market. And I tell clients that too. I think this is a great time to invest in Austin. I think 20 years ago, it was a great time to invest. Today is a little different scenario, but I feel like equally, I would buy a property today. If I found the right property, I'd buy it because I do think it's a good time to buy a property, hold on to it for 5-10 years, and then do whatever your strategy is. If you want to turn that over into something else, do a 1031, if that makes sense. That's how I feel about the market today in Austin.
Absolutely. And I feel at least nationally, the real estate markets have sort of peaked out, where it became very difficult to do a transaction. Interest rates were really high, and then home valuations had skyrocketed. One topic that's been top of mind for a lot of people in my generation, at least, is like the difficulty of buying your first home, et cetera. And it feels like some of that pressure is easing up going into 2026 now. So do you have any comments on that?
I think you hit a good sweet spot there, buying your first home. It's almost, in Austin, our prices, even though I'm saying it's a good, and prices are lower, it's still affordability is a big issue. And I see trends where roommates are getting together to buy a property, or hopefully no parents out there will kill me, but kids living together. My daughter's living with her boyfriend, and it's part because they love each other, but also it's part for financial reasons. It makes more sense to have, several people going in, especially younger people that they don't have the income yet to afford to buy something on their own. People are getting creative. And I think I love seeing the younger generation because they just have a different mindset on investing in real estate and how to invest in real estate. So that's versus just renting. So I'm seeing more and more of that where people are taking roommates I feel like the generation now, they're very resourceful and they will figure out how to make something work and to, for their future. And it's exciting to see. So that's really an interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's only a certain amount of inventory available, and the cost of the real estate relative to median wages has inflated dramatically compared to like 20 years ago. And so I think part of it is creativity, but you're put into that position because it's like, how else do you do it? And how else do you put down roots and start getting into something you can, really call home? Now, I want to flip the topic a little bit and talk a little bit about furniture and real estate. So one thing you had mentioned before is there's a lot more demand for furnished spaces, but as we all know, interior design and how you market and display a property are also very important. Of course, that has components of selecting the right pieces, et cetera. So how would you articulate the importance of being stylish, being trendy, doing the right interior design, getting the right furniture into a property in terms of your ability to sell or rent those properties?
Oh, 100%. Especially in the luxury market, but any market really. I think having a home that's staging is so important when presenting a property, and all the things that we do to get a property ready to market, the photography, the videography, setting up open houses, things like that. Difference between a property that's staged and not staged makes staging is almost, you have to do it today, regardless of it, whether it's a luxury or even a non-luxury property. And also because it's a buyer's market, it's just really important that if you want to get top dollar for a property, it needs to look perfect. It needs to be stylish. Somebody needs to walk in and be able to envision themselves living there and having great decor and wonderful furniture. And the good stagers also get that. And they do a great job at using high quality furniture and very up-to-date furnishings. So I think that's really important.
Can you walk me through the process of staging and photography and marketing a property? Like, for example, I'm sure you work with like a range of different properties, like luxury, high end, and then things that are more affordable. Are you applying a similar process? Are you utilizing different resources? Like, if you could break down that world for me.
The more luxurious or the more high end of a property that you're trying to market, you're spending top dollar on the marketing. Videography has become so big, and that's a huge trend. And of course, the property needs to be perfect when you're videotaping it, and you want the lighting. I mean, there's so many things that go into what's the time of day that we do this? What should the lighting be? What does this direction does this face? when is the best time to photograph it, how to set up the furniture properly so it flows correctly. I spend more time probably on, if I have a top luxury, focusing on that, but that's not to say that if I have a listing that is 3, 4, 500,000, in my book, everything needs to look perfect. It needs to show perfect. It needs to just be no clutter. Everything's clean. You want a buyer to walk in and feel like, as I said, like they could just move in. In today's market, that's a must.
Got it. So regardless of where that property is in terms of cost, you're applying the same fundamentals. You have this idea of like what perfect is, and you're trying to get that as close to perfect as possible. You're bringing in a lot of the same resources, but it is a question of scale, right? You're going to go all out for the luxury penthouse versus the $300,000 starter home.
And it makes a difference if somebody's living in the property versus a vacant property. A lot of times, if somebody's living in the property, we'll go in and work with the seller to supplement maybe some of their staging and help them. We're like white glove service. We'll go in and really walk through the property, bring a team, look at the way they currently have it, and make suggestions on how to change it so it will be more palatable to lots of people, lots of potential buyers.
Are there people that you have on staff that help with this? Are you outsourcing to third parties? Like, what's the team composed of?
It's both. I have a team of 10 agents. So we work, a lot of times I'll work with 1 or 2 agents on particular types of properties. And, the more that you work with someone, the more you can kind of read each other and, you know what to do. And I'm kind of the director. And I have somebody that does all the transactions in the background, somebody that helps schedule everything. And then we also have our vendors that we work with, who you have to have good quality vendors and also vendors that are available and help you and support you. We support each other. I think that's really important. You need to have the right tools, the right stager. We do work with stagers. And those stagers are the ones that every agent and successful agent has kind of their group of people, and then maybe primary and then maybe secondary. So if somebody's traveling or out of pocket or something like that, you don't have to wait to get, the results that you're looking for. So we have team members. We're all, of course, independent, but I've got team members that I've been working with for almost 10 years that we still work together. And sometimes I'll team with another agent, depending on what we're working on and, kind of what their expertise is. So
how many properties did you stage and market, let's say in 2025?
Actually, staging and marketing, including some luxury lease listings, I would say about 30 properties.
And it was like a lot of the same team for the majority of those properties, but then you had, some portion, maybe like 30% where you're using like secondary team.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And what makes someone primary to you versus secondary? Is it their taste? Is it the cost of the service, reliability?
I think it's, on the luxury, it's the very best, the best of the best, the people that are, I feel that are, top notch in the market. And, they're flexible. I think having a flexible schedule and also being very good at what you do is such a big, especially when you're talking about photography, videography. When I have a property ready to go, I want that person that's helping me or assisting me in getting it ready to market available and working with me and they help strategize. How should we do this? What are we going to say? What's the flow? How should we get the video? How should we get the photos? So having all that, it is like it's running your own business that has a lot of subcontractors in it. And we all kind of work together to achieve a certain end result. And with Christie's, we want our product to look like the name. People hear Christie's and they think of a certain brand and luxury, and we want our end result to match that.
Really cool. So, and how would you articulate that? What is the Christie's luxury feel? Like it's something when you see it? Are there sort of like references or examples that you could give us?
When you think of Christie's, a lot of people know Christie's because of the auction house and they think of luxury. And I think but I do want to be clear that it's not just $2 million and a dollar and above properties. So there's a lot I just sell investment properties that are duplexes they're not $2 million and above. But I think it's kind of a white glove service. It's almost like hospitality. It's like we're in the hospitality business. We're not just selling real estate. We're taking care of our clients and there's so many different things that go into preparing a property to bring to market and then selling it and managing that and holding events there. And, I do events several times a week at my properties, and I have all these relationships with people that we do like an investor event and they'll curate a dinner and use one of our properties to put that dinner on and invite people into it. So I'm really networking and meeting people, and it's kind of a twofold, and I love doing that kind of thing. It's exciting. There's so much more that goes into, and even selling 500,000 or $1 million duplex. I just sold a duplex, and that's a whole nother, working with the tenants and getting the relationship with them and having them like you and want to work with you and help you, because that's a big thing to ask people that are renting. I need your help. I've got people coming in and out of your house, help me with this. Each situation is a little different. And I think it's really taking care of people. People want to feel, whether they're a tenant leasing a property or a seller or a buyer, they want to be, or they're coming to an event in one of your properties. They want to feel like they're getting this great service. Christie's really, to me, is that white glove. And they teach also some of the things that we get as agents. There is, if you're working in a hospitality business, how do you conduct yourself? How do you act? How do you take care of the client? And I think all of that goes hand in hand with offering a full package to our clients.
Absolutely, Marianne. Having spent some time with you in Austin, I feel like the biggest thing I noticed was the strength and quality of your network and how deep it went. So your ability, I think, to host people, I saw that when we had events in the rooms in 44 East, is definitely something that stood out to me. And I can see how that has elevated your success in your field. Quick question from my end. Obviously, we've talked about, in Austin now dealing with furnished apartment buildings, right? In your mind, do you feel like let's say you'll walk into a building that you guys are ready to list, and you're like, okay, maybe something's not right. Will you kind of veto it? Obviously, you have people who are your professional designers or furnishers, and then two, have you personally built relationships with maybe local furnishings companies in Austin? Are you involved in that process, or is that typically all handled by your own interior designer, your own furnishings person, and however it's kind of set up, you'll work on selling it how it is?
I try to be educated on who a furnishing company is, who the decorators are, that is all really important, because we're acting as an advisor, and a lot of times clients hire us because of that. So yes, we do have relationships with local companies and try to have an understanding of who the companies are and who the players are. A lot of times groups will sponsor events at our brokerage and come in and speak with us. And there's lots of education to be had and to participate in. I think as somebody that I am looking for a client to hire me, I want them to know that I have the knowledge of what's happening. And if I don't have it at my fingertips, I can get it, because I'm connected with a lot of other people that are in this business. A lot of my colleagues are all working, doing the same things. So having your network is really important. And in the furnishings business, yes, that's equally as important.
Absolutely. And do you guys work mainly with larger companies, or do you find boutique retailers to actually be people that have handled some of your properties, like boutique retailers local to Austin?
I think both. Austin is started as, keep Austin weird, and there are a lot of smaller, great companies here. So I do think that is something that we try to be aware of as well. And if we're giving a referral, a great example, and this is not really furniture, but I personally am redoing my closets or doing my closets. I've never done them, and I live in the building. I tried to have a local company and then kind of a mid company and then somebody that's national, because I think the local companies they're great, and they've been in Austin for years, and they've grown just like we have with the business. So I think that's important as well. And I also really appreciate when a company reaches out to me and wants to introduce themselves and start a relationship. I think that helps with kind of my database of people and who's out there that I can call on when I need assistance or I want to refer a client to someone.
Got it. And last question from my end. And this is kind of an interesting one. How close are you with other real estate agents? Do you find Austin's real estate agents to be like a kind of tight-knit community? Is there more of a camaraderie? Obviously, it's competitive as well. What's the dynamic there? Because you guys are in a very hot real estate market.
You know what? I think that's a great question. And it's funny because we talk about this all the time. Our brokerage, Christie's here in Austin, has grown so rapidly. We are pretty young in the business, and I think we have over now 130 agents, which is very fast for just being in the business here in Austin for 2 years, or a little over 2 years now, close to 3. But also outside agents. We have calls weekly with one another And we talk about, it's the importance of having relationships with any agent. I mean, I try to treat every agent with respect, even if there's representing two different ends of the spectrum. That's something that really will help your future and success in the business. And there's like luxury leagues and things like that in Austin, but really all levels of agents. I think it's so important, whatever the level, of transaction, whether it's an ultra luxury or an investment property. I try to treat everybody equally and try to collaborate with agents, because we're all trying to achieve the same goal. We're all trying to help our clients. And it's just so much nicer if it's, smooth, and also, you never know when you're going to meet that agent again. And I would say Austin's a pretty tight-knit group. Like all the agents that do production, we all know each other. It has changed. When I first came into this business, coming off of Dell, we all worked, we worked as big teams and to support our large corporate accounts. And I thought, this is so strange. Like these big agents, they have the big names, but they're very close to the vest. And I think it's changed a lot. Teams have grown much more over the last 10, even over the last 10 years. Teams have become so much popular. I think everybody has a good understanding that collaboration is really important. And really the end goal is to help our clients.
Yeah, I think you have a really interesting perspective on like how the real estate market works, especially in Austin. But one thing is our audience is primarily furniture retailers. And one big topic among furniture retailers is, how do I get more B2B accounts? How do I sell more to stagers? How do I sell more to interior designers? And they don't have direct surface area with people such as yourself, the brokers. Right. And that's ultimately who the interior designers and the stagers are typically serving. So what's one piece of advice you might have, or one perspective you could share to a furniture retailer that they should understand about the stagers and interior designers that might help them get more business?
I see a growing trend in like networking and networking events. We were all so shut down during COVID. I feel like the last 5 years have been we're coming to a head with all, people wanting to do events and attending. But I do think getting involved in events where there's real estate agents involved, especially in the luxury industry, I think that's something that I would do. And I think the more networking you can do with people in our business, we want resources. We love meeting people, and especially resources that we can refer to clients or to other, to designers that we know. So that would be my advice, is to internet marketing is great and social media marketing is great. And we all do it every day. I mean, that's such a big part of our business, but the human touch and connecting with somebody and talking to them for 15, 20 minutes I think that goes way beyond anything else. You've got to have it all, but I feel like sometimes you forget, that it's so important to be face to face with somebody. Go have coffee and, go have lunch or go have a happy hour, or attend an event and meet people. I think, that's kind of drilled into our heads too, as real estate people, to be out in the market and talk, you got to talk to people. It can't just be all social media and over the internet. So I think that's really important.
Oh, that's such a cool insight. Yeah, because I think real estate is very relationship driven. And I know, at least in my neck of the woods, kind of near Philadelphia, if you go to one of those chamber events, business networking events, there's a lot of real estate agents, and they're building connections, they're shaking hands, and they know how to give, they're taking, but they're also giving. So it's like, who do you know? Who's in my Rolodex? That might be a useful introduction for you. And if you can't go direct to your customers via marketing, maybe you can go to your customers' customers and build a relationship there, get referred in.
Another area that I feel, we all have so much going on all the time, but I think being involved in philanthropic opportunities, I really have a couple things that I do. I support a group here in Austin called the Safe Alliance, and I help with their live auction every year. And it's coming up. So I'm feeling the pressure of, I got to get these packages and it's on me, I'm helping them raise money. But it really does come back to you. I mean, it really does pay to take the time to do things like that, because it does come back to you. That's kind of fresh in my mind right now, because every day I'm thinking about it. So that would be another thing that I think is great, because you never know who you're going to meet, right, when you're out there helping others. So I think giving back to the community, that's a big one.
Are there any furniture brands that are popular among your stagers, or furniture brands that you come across consistently in the luxury properties that you're marketing?
We have a retailer here called Four Hands, and I like a lot of their furniture. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I am. I just spoke with them yesterday. We're trying to get in touch with them. So that's so funny you bring that up.
They're great. In fact, the penthouse that I'm sitting in has a lot of their pieces in it. That's been a big one. The more luxurious you go, the more luxury you're going to find higher end luxury brands as well that people are gravitate toward. I do like forehands because I think it could fit well in a luxury setting, but their pieces also go, very well. It doesn't have to be ultra luxury, and it's affordable for not just the very, very high end, but it's also comfortable and it's beautiful, like very trendy. And so that's one of my favorite.
Now, circularity is reshaping how we think about belongings and spaces. I think this is important for consumers. They want to know that things that are being utilized correctly and not just ending up in the dump. And also there is a practical implication for businesses because if you can repurpose things and reuse them, then probably more affordable for you in the long term as well. In your experience, do you feel like your buyers care about sustainability in their homes, including the furniture, materials, and finishes?
Yes, I do think sustainability is becoming more and more on, top of mind to many, many people. And I see it in even designer clothing, right? I mean, the fabrics and what they're made of. And so, yes, I would say absolutely. And I think some of it depends on the individual, how important it is to them, but I do think it's getting on everybody's radar, from clothing to furniture to, consumables, things that you're purchasing.
Do you think there's a difference between how you would furnish or stage a property for sale versus furnishing a rental property or a lease, something where people are going to live just for a short period of time, 3-6 months? Think almost like Airbnb.
Not really. I mean, it really depends on the type of property it is, but I do see there's a new development in Austin called The Code. It's condominiums that are purchased by individuals, but they can be rented out. They're more like they have like a hotel permit, if you will. So I could buy one, but then I could turn around and rent it out as little as one night or as many as a month. And I could use it myself as well. They have an interesting concept where they work with like a West Elm or, that type of retailer and furnish those. So the developer actually furnishes the condos, and then they're kind of like we talked about earlier. You walk in and they're ready to go. They have all the furniture, and they have a furniture and specs for every unit, and down to drinkware and plates and all the kitchen utensils. So everything you would need to, walk in and stay like you're staying in a hotel room, basically. I see that happening more. The mobility and people moving around, wanting to buy something that's ready to go. I am just listed a lease listing in my building, and the people are very mobile. They travel a lot, and they're getting ready they're from Brazil and they're going to Florida, and we're leasing it's a beautiful two-bedroom condominium. We're leasing it fully furnished. They're taking some of their crystal and things that mean a lot to them out, but it's beautiful. And I'm anxious to see how it does. I feel like we just charged a slight premium, not much more than I would list it for normally. So I'm really anxious to see how quickly I get it leased. And I really did the full marketing on it. I did, a video where I'm talking about it. I did all the photographs. I used a photographer and videographer I would use on any other luxury property. So I'm really anxious to kind of try this and see how it works, because I bet this trend will continue. They want to travel, they want to be able to come and go. In our building, the minimum lease is 6 months. So we're offering it for 6 months, but they said, hey, we'll offer it for, up to 2 years. If somebody has the demand, if we want to come back to Austin, we'll stay somewhere else temporarily while, we're just kind of testing the waters on it. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. And I can let you know. We literally are just going live with it probably by tomorrow.
I'd love to hear the results of that. Other than the convenience and this luxury feel that we're talking about, do you feel there are any design elements that help improve the marketability of the properties that you're working with?
I do. I mean, I feel like there's a tipping point there where to make it look like designer, but also keep it general enough that it's not so crazy wallpaper that would it's very specific. But I do think having it feel like a designer, like a decorator came in and decorated it, is a big plus, but maybe not so over the top that it might not fit somebody's taste. which is tricky, to get that right balance of things. So if that makes sense.
Can't be so boutique that it doesn't have appeal to your average consumer.
Right.
Unless that's your niche, I guess, right? Like where you're doing these
Yes.
kind of really funky designs. But
I'm going back to this apartment too, that I'm the furnished apartment or condo that I'm about to list. I'm anxious to see. It has a lot of Chanel and different designer blankets, and it looks like a designer set it all up. She's very talented with design, and it looks like you walked into a magazine. So I'm really anxious to see how that goes and if it's appealing to people, because I can see people that are heard about people even swapping. Like somebody has a place in South America and somebody's in Austin, and they switch, and rent each other's places to give. As people get more and more mobile, I think we're going to see more of that.
So we're almost at our time here, but as a closing thought, you have over 2 decades, an extremely competitive market. What's one big lesson that you've learned about spaces, people, and how we live?
I think it's all evolving, but I would say people, for me, in looking out and trying to, work with people and meet people, I think people just feel like they're being taken care of. And I think people really appreciate a higher level of service, especially in our business. They want it to feel easy. They don't want to get in the niche of, there's this going on and that going on. And, we have this complication. I think people just want things to flow, and we all want it in our lives, right? To have things it feels good, and I think that's something that I've really learned a lot, and to take some of the emotion out of things. If things get tough, try to keep it behind the scenes and just really make people feel important and like they're being taken well care of.
So prioritizing experience, making sure that things are flowing for the customer, providing the aspect of service to them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Furniture Economy Pod. If you're interested in connecting with Marianne, and particularly in buying or investing in property in Austin, she's going to be your go-to resource. We're going to have the link to her social media in the description of this video. Marianne, thanks so much for hopping on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and anytime. Love talking with you too. And it's so great that we're all in different amazing places in the world and doing this, which is very cool. So thank you. Appreciate it. And best of luck with this.
Maybe next time in person, we can get an update on the property that you're listing.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'd love to give you an update on that lease listing. That'd be fun.
Very cool.
Thanks so much, Marianne.
Thank you.